sneaking out the back door to hang out with those hoodlum friends of mine. Greeted at the back door, girl, thought I told you not to go outside.
Good evening. My name is Ken Montero. I just ran through here because I heard there was food and a lot of people hanging out. And then Benny was playing, and Benny, remind me so I don't say it wrong, the name of the group. Ben Luis, could you remind me so I say it right for the group that we are just listening to, that also includes alums of our institution. But all that music in the background that you couldn't help when you were talking, and your conversation was kind of dipping and rolling. I want to thank you for the music that you brought into the room, the art that you brought into the room, and the alumni energy that you brought into the room, and that each of you are embedded in all sorts of things of how you're bringing art to change the world. I want to thank you for that. I'm the coordinator of the 50th anniversary committee. None of the people in the room probably know what this is the 50th of. Okay, so I'm lying about that too. But the 50th anniversary of the 1968-69 BSU-TWLF student-led strike that brought together the students at the core, faculty, community, other organizations, and it was also cross. So the students on our campus were also part of what was happening down on Auto Row and what was happening with the longshoremen. It was very organic. And it's an important moment in time for us at this institution. It's an important moment in time for the nation and the world. And this is the beginning of a year-long set of education where we're going to set the foundations of the movements, move towards March, to emphasize one portion, only one portion of the movement, which was ethnic studies, an important part. I have a little bias about the importance of it, but that's just my personal piece. What I'm really here to do is to bring up the chairs of the department. This evening, the greetings from the college end are being done by the department chairs because they bring greetings representing faculty and students, the heart of the institution. And then they'll be followed by representatives of the TWLF, the founders, the veterans and the founders. And we're keeping, and through the committee's recommendations from the founders and whatever, we're going to keep this part of the program short to make sure that we get back to music and eating, because we're supposed to be enjoying ourselves together, rebonding, the fellowship, because the next 2 days are going to be exciting and intellectual and activist work. So it'll be fun, but I want you to get all some food in your system, because you'll see the program when you come in the morning. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be really great work. Greetings.
My name is Donna Lissa Fisher. I am the acting chair of the first department of Black Studies, Africana Studies. And actually, we need to clap it up for you all here. So if you identify yourself as BSU or someone who helped to start Black Studies on November 8, 1968, please, you don't have to get up if you don't want to, but like, give a holler. Can we give a holler? Woo! In fact, I have to clap for my own gratitude, because the energy that you all started to harness and started to pull towards this part of the universe, to this part of the campus, if we may call it a mothership, continues. It continued. It was before 1968. It continued after 1968. It continued through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and even today on this campus. If you go to @SFSUBSU, you will see on Instagram students honoring you and continuing what it is that you all started. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. I must give you all the mic. So thank you.
Good evening. I'm Russell Jung, Chair of Asian American Studies, and I'd like to welcome back the BSU and Third World Liberation Front strikers. We welcome you back physically, but we want you to know your spirit has never left this campus. It's that spirit of collective action, the spirit of wanting to make social change, the spirit of wanting to have education be relevant to our communities. We like to think we're carrying that on. That legacy lives on in our students and in our faculty today. So thank you for starting it. Our students today are in a real precarious situation. They grew up in an era of mass shootings, mass deportation, mass incarceration, and they're really looking for hope. And for us, it's easy at San Francisco State to point to the strike as a source of a hope, as a source of living heroes who are making change, and who not only changed the campus, but actually changed the world. So we, in Asian American Studies, just want to say thank you, and we hope to just live up to what you've done for us.
Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Katinka Martinez. I'm the department chair of what's now called Latino Studies, what was before called Raza Studies. And I want to welcome you all, and I want to echo what Russell just said about the fact that the spirit of the strikers has never left this campus. It influences everything we do here. And I was just talking to a colleague of mine who was here earlier and telling me about all of the applications that we've been receiving for the new position that we're hiring for in Latino Studies. And the legacy of the strike even lives in those applications. People reference the activism of SF State. They reference that as a reason that they see themselves connected to the genealogy, the history of what you all laid down here. And that's something that we're committed to, and that we hope that you will remain in conversation with us about. The administrative assistant of Latino Studies, Gabriela Segovia McGann, put together a really wonderful display of the research that we do here in the College of Ethnic Studies. I encourage you to stop by and see it. It's right in the entrance as you're coming in, and just flip through it and look at the wonderful, photos of our faculty, of our students, and photos of the books that we've published as well. And really continue the conversation with us about whether you see your struggles reflected in that, and how we can make sure that your legacy that you laid down in the beginning continues to inform what we do. So thank you. We can have those conversations this weekend in person. We can have those conversations via email, but welcome all of you to SF State.
Good evening. I'm Larry Solomon. I'm here on behalf of our chair. I'm not the chair. I'm a chair for like 2 minutes today. That's good. Jason Ferreira is the chair of Race and Resistance Studies. It's one of the newer initiatives for folks who are uninitiated with the College of Ethnic Studies, newer initiatives. But Race and Resistance Studies is sort of an outgrowth of this project within Ethnic Studies for years, which is kind of inherent in Ethnic Studies, which is more of a comparative unit. We don't focus on any particular group. We look at more of the issues as it relates to all the groups. But there's a word in our department, which is the resistance part. And some of us in Ethnic Studies over the years who stayed in Ethnic Studies over the years, I was a former student in Ethnic Studies. I've been on the faculty now for 25 years in the college. Those of us who are really still committed to the vision laid out by the strikers around organizing, around activism, and not just having our students be activists on campus, but actually activists in the community, I think is one of the most enriching legacies. You're hearing that word a lot. I think that word's going to come up a lot this weekend, this legacy, because it's a living legacy. It's not something that's a museum piece. It's not something that our students honor just because it's something trivial or historical. Our students talk all the time about living up to the legacy of the BSU and the TWLF and realizing those demands, but building on those demands. But I'll just say real quick, one of the most inspirational things over the years with respect to the strike that we've tried to teach in our classes, and that has been one of the most kind of resonant issues with our students, is this idea that the strike accomplished these tangible wins. So the strike created the college. It created the level of diversity that grew up to this day. But it also, and many sort of scholarship pieces related to the strike make this point, that the strike also engendered this other legacy, this legacy of activism, this spirit of creating a generation of fighters who then went into the community and continue to fight. So those of us in race and resistance studies sort of build on the legacy, hopefully, of those in the college who said, we want our students prepared for the world, we want them prepared academically, intellectually, but we also want them as organizers and educators. We want them as organizers and social workers. We want them as, and I want to emphasize the word again, organizers, because the movements today are being built, whether it's labor with the Marriott strikers, whether it's the fight against gentrification, it's a fight around police abuse. Lots of those folks who are frontline organizers in those movements came out of our classes. Came out of our classes in the last 25 years. Did organizing internships because they took our classes, and we don't take credit for that. That's the College of Ethnic Studies, and you all created the College of Ethnic Studies, so I'm here again just to echo everyone else, to honor you all, and to thank you, and I appreciate you all being here, so thank you very much.
Earlier, I got a text from the chair of American Indian Studies, Robert Collins. He is down in Long Beach wrestling with some folks in a positive way. Again, there's a poem, and I won't give you the whole poem by Langston Hughes, but there's a line that is basically talking about the irony of a God that would like make a mole blind and various things. Just something a little off by all of us. Fast forward, if you know the poem, I can't do it justice in that. But it's that last line which says, and to make a man black and a poet and bid him sing. So sometimes we're asked to do things that are strange. When you asked us, we weren't around, we didn't know you were asking us, to make a college of ethnic studies, something that is counter, I'll use the nice word narrative, it sounds, but it is counter to the fundamentals of the institution. We had to figure out what kind of question is that? Is it that we need to take the university down? Is it that the university is going to kill us? Because remember, the prediction actually, as I remember reading in the former deans before me, was that they'll wait until about 6 years after all of you are gone, and then they'll bury it. And they did try, about almost every 6 years. But basically, one of the ways of looking at it is you were wondering whether if you could transplant a transformational object in this institution, it could change it. So some of the chairs were greeting you, and I'm glad that they did. But there's some bragging rights around, and they're done in sort of easy ways. But the College of Ethnic Studies students still are the most committed in the community, and that means they're the most committed with the labor organizations, they're the most committed in elections, they're the most committed in the schools, they're the most committed in our community agencies, in our art agencies, in the murals that are going up there. They're still doing that, which many of you, some of you went off to create newspapers or public radio stations that were historic, or art galleries, and there were some of you went off to be physicians in public areas. And so before I introduce the next set of folks coming up, I want you to also know that there are many of us that know that after '69 happened, you weren't taken away from by Martians, you actually were doing things. And so there are people here that you might not have met, and over the weekend I hope you meet a lot of them, that really, really, really do take it seriously. And when they come here, they want to leave here to make a difference. So I want you to know that. And he's down there developing a relationship between the 23 campus councils of the CSU and the overall academic senate, so that they see us as an entity of our own, and an entity that must be addressed in dealing with shared governance around ethnic studies. And those 23 campuses will be coming here and convening here with us in March in solidarity. So they'll be doing their own thing, but they're coming home. I forget who mentioned it as the mothership. When we did the 40th, someone actually, and you have to also be part of the funk crowd, said, you know, we didn't call ourselves this, you know that what your founders created was the mothership. And of course, my also being a funk person, I had a little, the beat thing comes up again. But knowing that you created the mothership, the place where people look, where people emulate, however good, bad, or indifferent, is important. And I actually didn't mean to say that. That was testimony. I was supposed to be introducing the representatives of the TWLF, and Robert's giving me a call, and a couple of faculty members texting in, and a new business professor, new young brother. There are only 2 black and only a handful of faculty of color in the business school, telling me that he had just gotten the clarity after his first year here that he needed to work with the College of Ethnic Studies more because he didn't want to do any more work that, 1, wasn't with people on accord, 2, wasn't meaningful, and 3, wasn't going to be impactful. The rest of it was becoming a detail. And it was, again, by hanging out in the place that you created. So they were being very nice. They weren't, so the bragging rights cards, I'm glad we put them out because the chairs were right to thank you, but I wanted to say a little bit about their bragging rights.
Good evening. You know what, before I begin, I would like everybody to stand up and go shake the hand of that person that's near you and say, I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you made it. Would you do that for me? All right. Okay. If you would, be seated. My name is, hold on. My name is Benny Stewart. And
The chairman.
way back when I was drafted, elected to being the chairman of the BSU back then in '67. You know, as I was standing up here looking, let me explain to some of the youngsters that's out there, hey, it's some people that's here and we're looking at, we don't necessarily feel old, but my God, we're looking at each other and gray. Seems like we can hardly walk. And you know, Terry Collins, raise your hand, Terry. Back when we used to smoke, well, I'm talking about cigarettes. And when we would get in it with the tax squad, they made us stop smoking because they would get into a truck coming after us and they didn't stop. And we knew if we couldn't keep running, we was gonna catch hell. Terry and I talked about that. But you know, that's some time ago, and I see that some of us is here. We got our children here. They're big and looking down at us, you know, while some of us are in wheelchairs, right? And when I looked at the film here, most of our enemies are gone. You know, Joe Alioto, right? Hightower, U.S. Senator.
Ronald Reagan.
You know, I was doing my community work, and I really had to go back to Hightower and ask for money and for some of those who go to the Western Addition, the Ella Hill Hutch Center, that came throughout Hightower. I hated to do that, but being that we had to go and function as any means is necessary, we had to do that. Now let me just say that to us, a student is just a problem solver in training. So the campus that's here helps you to work out what you want to do, why you want to do it. But let's not forget, what's most important is what you do when you leave here. I've worked almost 40 years in the community development. And nobody told me, and one of the toughest enemies I ran into, it didn't have any gender. You know why? Because it's what we call affordable housing. People had to move out, they couldn't stay, and we had to figure out a way. Now I'm saying this, get your education, do that. But there's a big world waiting on you, and we got to deal with it. And nobody knows the answers right away, but you know what? They're there with you. And if you keep up that effort, you'll find the solution that works. All right? But we got to keep focused, because what we do in our own various communities and in our own various fields is what's going to count. And maybe about a year or so, my second oldest grandson, he's getting ready to college. Grandson. My daughter was born the day after the strike was settled. And now we're dealing with grandkids. So time moves on. And you know what? Let me just say this. We know we're in the era of Trump. But one thing that made me feel kind of good, we're here because we launched the movement on what date? No, say it again. November the 6th. 2 days ago, I think Trump and his cronies will remember November the 6th as a turning point. And for some of us, because that has launched an opposition, a resistance that's going to bring about the change. And when we look back in history, let us not forget that date, November the 6th, where change brought about. But it kicked off here at San Francisco State. And lastly, let me just say what we have learned. What we as a student body did here has had impact throughout the country, throughout the nation. About a little almost a year ago, about 6 of us went down to Mississippi State University. And those people were really nice to us. Jimmy Garrett, who was with us, he'll be here tomorrow. We were sitting there eating, and he looked around, he said, he out of snick. He said, last time I was here, after being here 2 hours, they escorted me to jail. Now they're picking me up from the airport in a limousine. So there's much to do, and we want to thank you for the food that has been provided by state. In a building, some of us was talking that all this luxury that you have now, it would have been in our day, I don't know if we would have got anybody to fight. The BSU office was a shack, and it's only good for now is keeping lawnmowers and weed eaters in. But look what came out of it. Look what came out of it. So you have so much, and you got to produce more that will come out of this. So I'll turn it back over to Carmen, and she asked could she lean on me, and I told her yes, but she can't sit on me. All right.
Thank you. Thank you to Chairman Benny. Thank you. I'm Carmen Carrillo, Dr. Carmen Carrillo, formerly of the Latin American Students Association, formerly of the Mexican American Student Confederation, formerly of the Third World Liberation Front, and here I am. Maltiosh Pachamama. In Quechua, Maltiosh means thank you, and in Quechua, Pachamama is Mother Earth. So we thank Mother Earth for letting us use this land as a home for the College of Ethnic Studies. This college had an uneasy birth. It was unwanted by powerful forces. There were attempts to prevent its existence. Its parents had to fight for it. We were beaten. We were jailed. And we're here. Here we are. And it's now 50 years of its existence. I would like to ask the members of the Third World Liberation Front to stand. We'd like to recognize you. Please stand. Mason, Kenny, Leslie, Al, Lloyd. And now I'd like to ask all other members who participated in the strike to also stand. Come on, stand up. And I'd also like to ask those who have continued the struggle to stand up. Faculty, administrators, students, all of you who have continued this struggle, stand up. Be recognized. We are celebrating our 50th year, happily. And we want to nurture the seeds for the next 50 years. Thank you very much. We are happy to be here.
With that as a charge moving forward, I think you have a sense of where we're at. The university president will not be able to be here today, but he will be here tomorrow to welcome you. I know that his activist power and authority always has an interesting relationship, but those of us who work for you honor your presence on campus. So he will be coming then. I want to. Somebody inherited my notebook that was here, but it's okay. I'm going to be a teacher who lost his notes and act like I didn't. I want to remind you that tomorrow morning, coffee service starts at 8. Why is that important? We need you caffeinated because by 8:30, 8:40, we will begin the welcoming. The first part of the welcoming will be a respect for the land on which we are standing, which though it isn't being formally done by an Ohlone, I probably should have done it as I started by to remind us that we should respect the indigenous caregivers and the stewards of the space that we stand on wherever we are in the world. And here it would be the Ohlone beneath San Francisco State. And then there will be the greetings tomorrow by the Associate Dean and by the President, followed immediately by the fundamental plenary, the one that sets the grounding for everything moving forward. So you really need to be, you really want to be in it. Having said that, we are going to be very intimately gathered tomorrow. This room is going to be comfortably close. We are going to bring in only as many people as we can fit, and we will find out how many that can be, just like we've done in the past. You may say, well, what about the bigger room? This is the bigger room. When we get someone to build us a bigger room, we will. We do have overflow spaces for those who will not be here. I won't go through what those are because you'll all, as strikers, you'll be getting priority seating. So you will be in no matter what. That won't be your worry, but know that we're worrying about making sure that everyone who's trying to get here gets as close as they can, okay? Know that. That will include students here. That will even include some middle schoolers who will actually be engaged in a way slightly parallel but different from this. But we've got middle schoolers who are a little young for, not for hearing what the story, but how you tell the story. If you've ever worked with middle school students or you've got them, you've got to work them really hard for about 13 seconds, and then you've got to move them around. Okay, so that's going to be happening. We'll be going all day until Friday. We will return again on Saturday. That will begin at 9 for coffee, 10 sharp for these sessions. And I'm saying this in the teacher voice, the droning voice. Why is he doing this to us? We were having so much fun. because the sessions are wonderful. They really are. I got to see them come in, and a number of the people on the committee were here. A lot of the committee, you'll see on the program, will be thanked. I'm going to give an example of a thank you, though, that's not there. The flowers in the room were because one of our faculty members, Dr. Sherry Safapu, who's here somewhere, said, you have to have flowers. You have to have something living here. And so she just did them. She just did them. So the committee, you'll see the list there. And in terms of the funding for this, many of you were at an event in February where a number of the Friends Committee of the college, Friends Committee, strikers, former founders, faculty members, former faculty members, and some students generated the funds that are producing this weekend. Okay? So know that the work of this year started earlier and will continue separately. We will accept and we will be working and we will be doing lots of collaborations with the institution itself. But know that we started with the notion of self-determination, that we are inviting the campus to this, but we wanted to make sure everyone knew we did it because we declared it would happen. I hope I'm saying that in a way of good spirit, because it really is good spirit in the spirit in which I mean it. So know that there are people in this room who helped to, way back in February, helped to generate the funds and the resources that so we're eating our own family's food, is what I'm saying, in our own state institution that we own because we paid the taxes for. And so when you give us that charge, it's real, and we want to come out of this with a year where we're thinking, we're talking, and we're going to be acting. So I want to thank you. Get out of the way, except one point. You have who's representing coming up.
Greetings, my name is Damian Square. I'm the Political Education Coordinator for the Black Student Union.
Greetings, my name is Monet Ponza. I am the Social Media and Public Relations Coordinator from the Black Student Union.
Greetings, my name is Isis Dorley, and I am the Student Outreach Coordinator for the Black Student Union.
Good evening, everyone. I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for BSU. And my name is Simone.
Got that part.
Good evening, my name is Asaria Baingbe, and I'm the Events Coordinator for BSU.
How do you forget your own name?
Greetings, my name is Leona Hudson, and I am the Public Affairs Coordinator for BSU. And my name is Ola Alada, and I'm the Treasurer for BSU.
So the first thing that we want to do is we want to take our hats off and give a huge salute to the Black Student Union and the Third World Liberation Front. Without you guys sacrificing what you sacrifice, we wouldn't have the first College of Ethnic Studies, which most of us up here are Africana Studies majors. We wouldn't have had the Africana Studies Department, and we wouldn't have a Black Student Union. We are literally standing on the shoulders of giants. So we just want to give you a resounding thank you and let you guys know and to reassure you that we are carrying on your legacy in a very positive way. We totally understand that November 6th is the 50th, today marks the 50th anniversary of the student strike that y'all started. November 8th.
He meant 2 days from
Right.
it.
It's been a long day. So today it's been a very, very long day. So today, basically, in commemoration of the 50th anniversary, we led a student strike today. We led a walkout. It started at We led a walkout that started at Malcolm X Plaza, and we led about roughly 150 students to the 5th floor of the administration building to address President Wong and his failure, and his administration's failure to properly and adequately address the shortcomings of marginalized, disenfranchised students. 50 years later, black students are still suffering on this campus. The fight that we have today is a different battle, but it's the same struggle. A lot of us are, dealing with lack of affordable housing on campus, $1,000 dorm fees, basically mortgage payments. A lot of us are suffering from food safety. Some of us are sleeping in our cars. A lot of us are working 2 or 3 jobs. So the beast has changed and it has adapted to our strategies. But what we've been doing is kind of trying to reorganize our efforts in order to properly address the ills that we're facing right now. So at the end of the day, it's not about what we're doing right now. We just want to let y'all know that we're holding it down. We're upholding the legacy. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, and we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to fight for black students, and we ain't going to stop until black students get what they rightfully deserve. Thank you, and much appreciation and much respect for what y'all do.
I also want to add to that is that we're also building solidarity between other cultural wars, such as Skins and La Raza and other cultural wars as well. And so we understand how important the Third World Liberation Front was during the time during 1960, during the strike. And we're trying to get that sense, that essence back, that solidarity back, that real solidarity back, because we know that once all oppressed peoples on campus are liberated, that everyone else too will be liberated as well. Thank you.
I have to know Steve and Alexi, so tease a little.
Well, I want to thank all of you for being here. We're standing up, first of all, 50 years later, which is a feat in itself. And I would say we have to remember those brothers and sisters who passed on and haven't been able to be here. We need a moment of silence for them. You know, one of the things that we fought for 50 years ago, as everyone knows here, is the right for open admissions. And as our fellow students said here, working class students can't afford to go to this college with the fees that they have. When I was going here, $72 a semester. And basically, a human right is a right to an education. That's why I went on strike. Everyone should have the right to an education, a college education. And what's happened, as everyone knows, is privatization, outsourcing, corporatization of our whole system, charters and everything else. And on top of that, 50 years ago, we didn't have the overt racists that we have in this country. You had racists, but the mask was on. And what we have now is an unmasked president, unmasked racist, attacking African American, attacking Chinese, attacking Vietnamese, attacking Latinos. And this is a threat to all of us. And it makes our struggle as relevant today as it was then, much more relevant. Because when you see people murdered in the street because of their race, when you see people murdered because they're Jewish or any other religion, that's a threat to all of us. So I think the lesson, and this is what I think that they're afraid of of another 68. They're afraid of millions of people in this country rising up and beginning to take control of their situation. And frankly, that's what we need to stop what's going on. I am not going to rely on the Congress, the courts, and all these so-called institutions to protect us. We have to protect ourselves. And that's what we learned in the strike. We organized to protect ourselves. So I think that the lessons of the strike are important for today, and I would hope, I know the experimental college is going to start a class and students are going to have strikers come in, but I would hope one thing out of the 50th anniversary is that we do have a class on the San Francisco State strike, that we do have education of students, that we have presentations of papers of these students, what were the lessons of the strike, and that we have an annual event every year at San Francisco State with those papers. Because the struggles that we had is very relevant, even more relevant today. So I can't be here tomorrow and the following day, but my spirit is with you. We have to continue the fight. And right here in San Francisco, we have a terrible situation in the African American community and Latino community. Ethnic cleansing, people being driven out of their homes, and you have the poisoning of African American people in Hunters Point, Bayview, and Treasure Island. I mean, the idea, think about it, the idea that you're going to build condos on a radioactive nuclear dump, the insanity of that. But this is what we're going on right here in San Francisco. And we have to protect those communities. We have to protect all the people. So that is what I think ethnic studies should start to focus on, fighting for the communities in San Francisco and uniting the working people, the unions, and the people here in San Francisco State. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Anything else for the good of the people? We got, we have other times, but if this is the moment that it should be said, I want it. Okay, seeing none. I also understand the nature of us as a people gathering. There's cake that's going to be cut. There's music to be cut, because they're going to be cutting up a whole bunch over here. There's going to be food to be cut up. We want everyone to do what we need to do, which is, yes, to struggle, but also to fellowship together, because it's that, yes,
I want
Margaret.
every striker to start doing what we did then. On strike, we're
Gonna
going to
shut
shut
it down. On strike, we're gonna shut it down. I'm only doing this as sort of,
Oh, geez, guys.
look, if anybody's worried about this singing, Margaret, I'll help you, because I can only get one note. Mr. Nesbitt Crutchfield.
I'm going to try to say something very shortly. People know that I like to talk, so this is a real effort for me. I just want to say that there's an organization on campus today that is catching hell from various rightist organizations, some no support from the administration, and is in real need of support, and that's Ahmed.
That's the
Arab, Muslim,
Ethnicities in diaspora.
ethnicity statute, and it's dealing with a sister by the name of Rabab, who is a very dynamic, brilliant sister who deals with the Palestinian issues. We talk about the conception of the strike, the struggle of the strike, and the implementation of the strike. And I think that one of the implementations that we can deal with today, deal with this year, deal with this month, is the fact that our Palestinian brothers and sisters are catching hell in Northeast Africa, also known as the Middle East. And they're catching hell here, and we should give them as much support as possible. And this is a way that we can implement some of the issues of the strike 50 years ago today. And I just wanted to say that because it's really important, and I want you to keep that on your mind for the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Is there anything else? Some of you know that there are things that I actually cannot speak about, and I just mean that literally, during this conference, but they will get spoken about by other folks. There are ongoing processes for which I can't speak on certain things. But they will. That does not mean that someone else can't or won't or however. So I just want to put that out there. Some others may be in a similar situation. It's just that moment in time. We've been through it before. We didn't expect, or necessarily if expected, we didn't want to necessarily have to go through it again. But that which you can win once, you can win twice. So when someone, and I say this because there are people walking around saying to our students or saying on the media, oh, this is impossible. Well, when it was never done before, I could see someone maybe saying that. But when I'm standing here looking at the folks, and some of the folks in the room know, that got a crazy set of high school students that think we can take over our high school in a small town in Massachusetts. Now, it was not nearly as impressive as almost a year. It was only a day, and we took over a parking lot, and the faculty parking lot, and didn't do a strategy, so the police already had us surrounded before we got out there. But we tried. But if this can do what it did and still have implications now, 50 years later, Nothing's impossible. It just may be hard. So I'm going to close with one little piece. I taught at another institution, several institutions, but one Midwestern institution, which will go unnamed, United First Student Urbana-Champaign. And a faculty member happened to have somehow acquired a letter from a chancellor in the late 60s, and I don't remember who it was, and I didn't know the importance of my getting a copy of it then to put in my file. But the gist of the letter was a letter out to all administrators. Whatever you've got to do, figure out what you've got to do with our students, because we will not survive at San Francisco State. Now, that letter for an assistant professor, who then his next job is to come to San Francisco State, you know this was like winning the lottery, plus or minus $1 billion. So I do this now as a former dean, semi-retired academic, with an excitement for the future, not just about an excitement about the past and seeing a lot of you that I have met over the years, but an excitement for the future of what's happening, including the conversation we had, and then spontaneously having one of the student groups coming up to tell you that they were already still engaging. So thank you, but we do have cake, food, and music, and I need to sit down.
That was union like that was